Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus, and tonight we're talking about a pretty complicated technical subject, which is the nature of the astral body and how physical is it? What are its inner workings? What are its biological elements, if any? What is an astral body? And probably some of you guys might not know as much about this area of work, or you haven't seen my zillion other videos that probably have touched on this subject before, but it's always good to kind of go back over complicated subjects again while we're all trying to figure these things out. So the astral body is you, how you appear on a higher dimensional level. So if we can take away the idea that this is the only dimension of reality that exists, and consider that there's higher dimensions that we can move into, that we can travel into, that we can experience, the question arises is that how do you look, how you're perceived on those levels, and what exactly kind of car are you driving on those levels? Like, what is it? What functions does it have? How similar is it to the body you're in right now? So the astral body is this higher dimensional version of the body you're in now. And when you have an out-of-body experience and astral projection experience, mind you, not a lucid dream. We're not talking about lucid dreaming here. We're talking about leaving your body, something that I've been fortunate enough to have done many times, where I even see my astral energy body, whatever you want to call it, just basically just moving it out of my physical body, if you want to use that terminology, just laying on the bed and just lifting up what usually in that state looks translucent. So it creates that kind of goofy illusion that you're translucent. Really, you're not. It's just kind of a frequency-based incompatibility. So that goes away soon. But you'll see your translucent body rising up out of your arm that's resting on a bed. And then I will notice I have full, perfect physical sensation in that hand that I've taken out of my other hand. So I'm looking at two hands. One is here that I don't have motor function over anymore, and then I have a new hand which I have full motor function of, and it has virtually no difference except that weird translucent nature. And I also have noticed, even in this state, feeling pins and needles, like I'm actually feeling blood, like I hadn't used it in a while. And I'll actually do this, and I'll feel like sensation returning to that hand, which would beg the question, so what if there's blood in this hand? How does that work? Well, there's a big misconception all the time that people who pass away or people who live on these higher dimensions are just these energy specters that don't have any solidarity. And one of the important things that we've discovered in the field of afterlife research is that that's not true. If that were true, I would report it as such. I want to just get the truth out there for whatever it's worth. And I'm not trying to push a specific way of thinking, except that objective evidence has shown this peculiar phenomenon that we are in sort of like these replicas of the bodies we're in now. And it lines up with pop culture, doesn't it? Okay, if you watch some show about people who cross over and become, quote, ghosts, but they still look like themselves. Like, I don't know, let's think of any pop culture, What Dreams May Come, or The Good Place, or something that depicts somebody transitioning into a different reality. Well, they look like how they did before. It's like this copy and paste job. They have the same body. Well, what is that body? That body is the astral physical body, which still looks like and functions like your old body. And now, of course, there are some differences about this. I think I first became introduced to this concept in the book Life in the World Unseen. It was allegedly channeled by Anthony Borgia, written by a Monsieur Hugh Benson, a Catholic priest and writer in this life. He wanted to make amends for all the disinformation and religious fundamentalist nonsense he was putting out there on his earthly career. So he began creating these channeled books through the medium Borgia, right? Allegedly. In that book, he discusses the nature of the astral body, and talks about how it's without the sort of imperfections, illnesses, stomach aches, herpes, whatever it is that bothers you can be eliminated there, but what's left behind is still a vessel that is operated with, and In that book, he even described a little bit about the inner workings, saying that beneath his skin was still bones and sinew, which of course begs the question, bones and sinew, I guess that, whether organs. There was some indication or something was written in that book, I recall, about how maybe certain bodily functions will atrophy if they're not being used. So if you're not using your liver or maybe other parts of your body, it might just kind of disappear from the astral physical form, right? And beyond the astral physical form, we've also learned about kind of energy bodies. But the interesting thing about even energy bodies is that they're still they can coalesce into these entities that can still look and possess a human body, even if it's in a kind of higher spectrum level, which may look, actually quite beautiful to those of us with mortal eyes, kind of creating the idea of the angel. And Jürgen loves to talk about this as well, if you check out Jürgen's books, talking about higher dimensional kind of angelic entities. So all that put aside, it's a very interesting subject. You can really go down that rabbit hole. I want to bring us to a post by Daryl Andrews, discussing the nature of these bodies, kind of paraphrasing a lot of spiritualist sort of information and lore. But then I intervene a little bit where I disagree a little bit, and then add some of my own perspectives. So I'm going to kind of rehash this for you guys. Before we go further, by the way, you are watching Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where these crazy subjects are tackled and dealt with. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell. Helps tell YouTube that this channel is worthy of existing. I'm seeing all my stats drop recently, like my suggested video percentages and all these things that we try to monitor with little channels like this. I don't know why it's all dropping, but also subscriber counts are like boom, hitting rock bottom. But it has to do with YouTube not being as impressed by the content. So if we want to show YouTube that, hey, this channel is relevant, please don't bury it, then you gotta subscribe, you gotta comment, like, and all that stuff. Okay, so to continue. So here is the post by Daryl Andrews in relation to what it is that we can and cannot do on higher dimensions of reality. Once we, move beyond this silly dimension, move into higher ones, what's going on? Daryl says, in response to John Adam, our moderator, John, the way I understand it and have learned is that everything is composed of energy. Well, this is true, and it's also true even in this reality. E equal mc squared. Matter can turn into energy. Energy can turn into matter. These are interchangeable terms. It all is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only change form. On the other side, we are quite literally energy made manifest. And this is actually where something I forgot to mention, maybe a little bit of a disagreement, is that we are literally energy made manifest on this side. There's just certain sanctions, certain rules in place that make it a little bit more complicated. Energy made solid and given form by our consciousness, which is a part of and connected to our higher selves. I agree. We can quite easily change this form, as Cyrus mentions, with our thoughts alone, that's the primary difference between the we could even call both dimensions astral, the astral physical earth plane reality, which is where we are now, to the astral higher dimensional reality, basically where we go when we kick the bucket. We can manipulate the energy patterns just using our thoughts, instead of having to use complex machines or devices or instruments to do it here. Everything about us is created by our thoughts, including clothing, as you two mentioned and are correct in. So even though we have a physical body on the other side, it doesn't need to eat or drink to survive. I agree. Although we can do both for pleasure, as you know. I agree. It functions very much like our human body, but without any negative biological functions. I agree, hopefully. I'll get into that. It doesn't wear down or age if we don't want it to. It doesn't grow ill or require anything other than energy to sustain it, and energy is all around us in abundance everywhere. So Daryl perfectly sums up what it's like over on that side once you're in an astral body. But I respond though, because the thing is, it's a little bit more complicated than just that. and it's a complicated subject. So this is just based on some of my own understandings, my own theories. It's not gospel. But I say, while I agree with you, my personal stance may be a little bit more complicated. That energy that manifests it exactly also happens to re-manifest exactly our internal organs and everything else, even to the point of illnesses that sometimes carry from this side if a recently deceased person is too stubborn to accept that they're in a new body, and this is when you require specialists to clear them. Now, it's a controversial statement. You know, if you have arthritis here, then you get arthritis there, but I'm sorry to say I'm convinced about this from not only reading the literature, but also collecting information from my own experiences. And this happens to people who often are in denial that they've even passed away. And in those situations, let's just understand that everything is energy, right? Your body as it exists right now is an energy template. It's like a program code, and it exists as that template. So that whole template can be carried over, warts and all. Now, those of us who are in the know that once you're on that level, you can modify that template using your thoughts and mind in a ways that you cannot do it here. Now, if you refuse to recognize that, refuse to learn that lesson, then the arthritis you had here may still be acting up there, because it's the exact body almost that you had here, until you go through the steps to change and modify it. So that's why in that instance, you can be on that side, and in regard to how physical your astral body is, it would actually be exactly as physical as it was here. And this is something we also hear repeatedly about kind of guides to help people when they're transitioning, and how part of that process often includes making sure that the illness they had when they were here goes away once they're there, that they're not still having any symptoms of it. And it's I think it's both a physical and psychological process that they have to go through to ensure that the new arrival does not have any ongoing issues like that. I continue. It's possible to be on that side in a carbon copy of your body here, complete with hemorrhoids and everything, until you learn to control the energy systems that allow things to change or manifest how you want them. But just like if you use energy systems to manifest a car, and it has all the inner workings to make the car work, and it's pulled out of a thought-based database, it's the same with the body. So this is what has to be worked through to, quote, adapt as one wishes on that side. And it's why many have 100% biological bodies, because they're too stuck in the sand. Their heads are too stuck in the sand to recognize that they're not on this side anymore, and they could get out of certain physical systems if they choose. So the people who are not willing to change, and I'm telling you, man, that's one of the biggest issues on this planet, is people who cannot change, cannot adapt, grow, evolve. They may find themselves, well, actually too biological on that side, too physical, still having issues related to that could be cured. Now, I want to kind of cap this video by saying that there's another side of that spectrum, which is a completely non-physical existence, where you are the commonly mentioned orb of light floating around, that has no physical system, that has nothing of this nature. Now, if you're an orb of light, take a drink of coffee. If you're an orb of light, do you still have access to physical systems? And the answer to that is yes, but I don't think it's quite the same. What you can do is you can absorb the energy of a situation. So if there's a pizza, even as a little formless light orb wisp fairy thing, you can just pull the essence of that and then still experience it, even without using the normal sensory functions. But I think what's missing is to being able to, in like a real, lucid way, interact with the environment around you, right? So if you're a floating orb of light in an astral environment, then yes, you can taste and absorb senses and communicate and do all those things. But I think what's missing is you don't have full access to that realm that you're in, right? How do I illustrate that? Let's say you and your friends want to go bowling. It's a little bit difficult if you're just floating, free-floating consciousness, right? That's why typically on the astral realm, people are possess astral bodies so that they can function and inhabit that plane of existence. It's the same reason, though, you won't see, well, maybe I have no idea, maybe you will, but will you see somebody in an astral physical body in a wisp fairyland where it's just light orbs and people, lights flickering and bouncing around and things like that? Well, in that situation, it wouldn't make sense to have a astral physical body because you wouldn't be connected to that type of realm. You see what I mean? So it kind of has to match the environment that you're in. And where most people go is the astral spectrum, and the astral spectrum of the planet, which means that like people who want to have a lifestyle there, they will move into a astral physical form. But we do see intermixing. So if you're astral projecting, you may very well see little fairy lights and non-physical and non-corporeal essences going around, and I've heard people reference them during astral projection trips, referring to them as spooks, ghosts, fairies, lights, even referring to people they know. I'm just making this up here, like, grandpa has no body and he just floats around in the kitchen. Sometimes you'll see him wish by. So yes, even on the astral physical plane, sometimes people will have no corporeal, if you want to use that terminology, body, but the majority of people do. Finally, I always want to make the distinction here is that a lot of this is based upon preference. And so one philosophy that I'm always pushing back against is sort of metaphysical superiority complexes. So occasionally people will come around who kind of claim to have all the answers in this area, and then they will say, well, you are spiritually inferior if you still have a human identity or human form after you pass away. And they're trying to push everybody into a cookie cutter of how they have defined other planes of existence to be. And then they will say, well, you must not be, you had an experience with your mom who looked like your mom. And they'll say, well, either she's not a very advanced spirit or she just had the illusion of being your mom, because we all know when you cross over, you kind of look like those aliens at the end of that Spielberg film AI. Like you look like long, gangly, entities who have no definable features or gender, or you don't have any body at all, or you look like who knows what, there's a lot of different perceptions about that. So you get these kind of condescending points of view that are saying, well, if you look like this, if you still retain this, if you still have any kind of physical form, it just means that you're not enlightened enough. And I don't buy any of that at all. What it comes down to is that the level of density, the level of solidarity of the realm you're in dictates the vessel that you'll inhabit to be able to experience that realm. And the reasons to be on different levels of physicality is based upon preference, things that you wish to experience, lessons you wish to learn, adventures that you wish to have. So it doesn't have anything to do with whether you are enlightened or not enlightened. It's just this more garbage that you hear in this field that gets really condescending. I always push back against that because it's just it's not a very wise path to be always comparing oneself or a particular state as being, quote, better than or more enlightened than anybody else. And this field is full of that. When I'm having experiences on that side, which I believe I have, I just feel like everyone is of an equal importance, and it's the same on this side. Everybody is of equal importance, and I don't, obviously there's people who are off track or need help or need guidance, or young souls, or people who are not, maybe they're not as far along as other people, but still everyone is of equal importance. Every realm and experience can be of equal importance. It's all subjective. I mean, that is one great thing about the universe, is every single soul is different, has different preferences. So we can't make existence and souls conform into one path, one way of being. because everyone is different, and learning to accept that people are different is part of a path of being content in life, I think. Well, please check out books like Understanding Life After Death, The Afterlife, and Beyond over at afterlifetopics.com, or get involved as a patron at patreon.com/afterlifetopics. If you want to work with me, do a consultation or coaching with me, all of that stuff. Also, email me down below. You'll see my email address. Check out the Facebook group, the Reddit page, all of that in the links. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this subject and what your opinions are. I'll see you guys on the next video.